So, coming up on the end here, where can Sugar Beet help you? Sugar Beet can help you with seed starting kits. A lot of very knowledgeable growers work around here at Sugar Beet, so certainly go to them for any advice, tips, and of course love. And then where can Deep Roots help? Deep Roots has all kinds of products specifically for growing without pesticides on your own property, whether that's for your lawn or for food that you're growing in your garden. So if you go onto their website, deeproots.org, deeprootsproject.org, you'll see all kinds of resources available for you. Some suppliers that I use outside of Deep Roots and Sugar Beet are, and these might be for one-off items for your seed starting, but these are 3 great seed companies, all of which are tailored to growing in the cooler Midwest. So these are companies that will actually have what you need to grow here in Chicago. So, if you're looking for seeds that they wouldn't have here, if you're looking for seedling trays, like the one that I brought here, any of these companies can help you out. And then just a quick recap. Anyone can start their seeds indoors. It'll help you get an early start, increase your chance of success. Lots of flexibility in what you can actually grow in containers. And then, just kind of try to enjoy it. It's the whole thing is an experiment, and I like the image of the tomato in a bucket. Of course a tomato will grow in a bucket. A tomato will grow almost anywhere you plant a seed. Here's one of my favorite growing books. Talks about seed starting, talks about all different aspects of growing produce in cooler weather. This gardener specifically is up in Maine, but everything in this book is really relevant to growing in the Midwest.
Can you please read the title?
Yeah, it's called The New Organic Grower, and the author's name is Elliot Coleman. Now, does anyone, please?
I have a teeny tiny space, I have almost no sun, and I only want to grow 3 herbs.
Okay.
One I've decided is mint, because I've decided to like food with mint in it. And it is conducive to small containers. Can you recommend 2 other herbs that I might begin with?
And so you have low sunlight, and can you start? Okay, are you able to start them inside where they could get some sun?
Yes.
Okay, so cilantro would be a great one. Mint, like you're saying. Basil is typically something that you plant at the same time that you have tomatoes and peppers, but it's a great one for indoors too if you do have some sunlight. I don't know, Estelle, do you have an idea for another herb that would kind of grow well shady?
Most of the herbs need less sun than vegetables, except for this one, a lot of sun. They'll survive. But a lot of the herbs are perennials. So even if you, I would personally, I would not grow herbs from seed unless you're growing a lot of them. If you just want a few herbs, I would just buy a seedling from someone else who's willing to grow and get it fairly large and put it outside.
Yeah.
I mean, the oregano that I have is gigantic. I mean, huge.
Yeah.
And my sage died over last winter, but it's been perennial for previous
Year after year.
years. The cilantro goes to seed really, flowers really quickly. So cilantro actually is better to plant in waves, like a whole bunch of them, and it grows really fast, goes to seed real fast, and you harvest it real fast. And then if you plant them every week, then you have a rotating cilantro patch to pick from. And then dill will plant itself. Dill grows everywhere. You take the dill seeds and just throw them around, and they'll just grow practically anywhere in the garden. Or they'll start inside, or they start themselves from stray dill seeds from the previous season.
Sure.
Or in the soil. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
This handout references grow lights. What do you have to say about grow lights?
You know, I think gardening is kind of one of those things you can go as low tech or as high tech as you want. In all the years of growing on a very large scale, I've never owned a grow light. And so, but I've also seen people who have had really good success with them. So if it's something where you were kind of having some fun with it and you're like, I've got a spot in the basement, I could have a grow table down there, I would totally do it. I just never, for the amount of product that I was growing, I would need so many grow lights that I had to figure out a different way to do it.
So you have good windows?
I built greenhouses. So in one of the early pictures that I had there, it showed me, and I had 3 of my greenhouses in the back.
I can talk more about grow lights since I've used them a lot.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Happy to do.
Okay, so I
Come on front. You sit
I
across the
have,
hill.
I'm sorry, sorry. Okay, so I have very little sun and in my house, and we have 6 grow lights, and they're hung from the ceiling on strings, so on pulleys and strings, so that I can lower them to any height that I want, because they actually put out so little intense light that in order to have them imitate the sun, which is so much more intense, you actually have to put them very, very close to the top of the ceiling. So once the seedling actually appears and it's used up all its food in the seed itself and it needs to use the sunlight to make food, you have to put the grow light 2 inches above the top of the seedling. So when I grew my tomatoes under grow lights, they started here and then the tomato got this big. And it should not have. And it was because I didn't have the grow light close enough to the plant, and the plant was pushing itself higher and higher and higher instead of going out to the side because it didn't have enough sun. So that's why you need to keep the grow light really close to the top of the plant. So you don't want spindly stems. That's bad. You want it to be compact and little and strong.
You can just use a shop light with cool white bulbs in it as a grow light. Seedlings don't need full spectrum when they first come out, so usually the stuff that we're going to start here, you can really use it. That's like, to me, the super secret is you can get this very inexpensive. You do have to keep it like almost touching the leaves, but it's not hot, so it's not going to harm the plant. And just keep, like Estelle says, keep adjusting it as it grows up. Keep it on for 18 hours, as close as you possibly can, and just have cool white bulbs, and it looks good job. So you don't need a full spectrum. You don't need a grow light copper necessarily for seedlings. Just a little cheaper secret.
When you say shop light, you're talking about a fluorescent bulb, or you're talking about those long, new modern ones that have LEDs in them?
I'm talking about fluorescent bulbs, but I believe you can also use the LED bulbs. Good try.
All right, well, the other thing, from my experience, which is try to let the plant grow itself as much as possible because I don't have much time. The other trick that I use is that I let the plant water itself. So I get these self-watering trays. There's another tray under the ones with the holes in the bottom. There's another tray, and you put and it's like a couple inches. It has a space. There's an inch or 2 space between the bottom tray that doesn't leak and the compartmentalized tray that has holes in the bottom, and you just pour the water into the bottom tray, and this really this potting soil just sucks it up. So I never actually have to water the plant from the top. It sucks its own water from the bottom, so that when you see the tray, water is getting low, you just fill it to the top again. And that really was much easier than watering the seedlings. Because I just can't do it constantly. I have too many other interruptions in the world here. And one of them, the big ones is the Deep Roots Project, because that's my little baby, and so I am constantly trying to develop that. So I do the same thing when I do things out in the garden. I put automatic watering out in the garden, so I don't have to water. So there's these pipes that go through the soil, and you just turn it on, and you on a timer, and it waters itself from the bottom. You don't water.
Please.
What about rabbits or squirrels that might want to eat your plants?
So what I've done in the past, and it depends on the type of the size of the area that you want to protect. If you have, say, a smaller 4x8 type garden, I would, and I don't have it on this particular slide deck, but what I would use is what's called a row cover. And it's a polypropylene fabric that water and sunlight can get through, but bugs, pests, nothing else can. So I would actually cover the plant with something like that and actually have a physical barrier. There are some people who've had really good luck with, repellents, you see these things in stores that are, coyote urine or things like that, that I don't really have much to say about that one way or the other, but I think I've heard people say that they work. But if it were me and it was my veggies that I was trying to protect, I would put this lightweight barrier there. If you're looking for where you could buy something like that, that Johnny's Seed catalog that I had put up here sells it in all different shapes and sizes, and it's not expensive at all.
Chicken wire.
Chicken wire would work great too. If that's actually a great idea. If you had, say your typical Deep Roots kind of 4x8 raised wooden bed, and you chicken wired over it, that would be great too, and that would probably cost you $5. Please.
For growing things inside, like what would be good to grow inside?
Permanently to grow inside?
Like windowsill, kitchen windowsill.
Yeah, I mean, herbs are great. So anything along the herb line. A lot of people do basil inside. They'll do.
What about like spinach and.
You could definitely do spinach in window boxes. Like the image that I had of the 5-gallon bucket. If you were to seed spinach heavily, like in the just about a half an inch deep, and then it was able to get access to sun, that whole top of that bucket would be filled with spinach. So spinach, salad mix, arugula, things like that would grow very well inside. Please.
When you're watering, do you ever put plastic over the top of the container to keep moisture in?
I would do that if I knew that I wouldn't have time to come back and check on it. And I know that would do a great job to keep the humidity in. Where that becomes something that I worry about is if I don't know what the temperature is coming up to. So you end up having this greenhouse effect that you may or may not want. And while you're keeping the humidity in, you're also keeping the temperature in. So if let's say you were just waiting for the seeds to germinate, I would absolutely water those, cover them, and when I saw them starting to sprout, 3-4 days later, then I'd pull the plastic, and you wouldn't even have to worry about overheating. But that's the one thing I worry about. I think I saw a hand over.
Excuse me.
Oh.
This is not directly on the topic, but on grow light and grow growing. But we may as well touch on it a little bit. Grow lights. As long as if you happen to have a system or a shop light or a grow light and you've got it set up, you may as well use it all year round. I mean, why go through the effort of getting it if you don't use it? And it's really, really good to make sprouts. And sprouts are the healthiest form of vegetables. It has the most nutrient density of any vegetables. It's the little baby plants. So you can grow sprouts all year long. So you just do it in rows. I mean, if you have a self-watering tray with not with little compartments like this, though, just a tray, filled with soil, and the second tray below that sucks up, it waters itself. You plant like 2 inches of sprout seeds, like sunflower seeds or so. There's certain seeds that I think sunflowers are one of the best ones that are for edible sprouts. And you just plant, the first week you plant 1 row and they start growing, and then the next week you plant another row, and then another row and another row until you fill up the whole tray so that they're harvestable every week. And then after you harvest 1 row, then you replant that row. And you just keep it going through the entire year. I mean, you can have a garden indoors with incredibly nutrient-dense veggies to put in your salad every day. So,
So the sunflower seeds are just like the ones that you get in the store, the raw ones, and you still kind of sunflower seeds?
Yeah, I'm not sure which ones are best. I haven't tested the 2, but I have to research that again. That's one of my new projects for Deep Roots, is researching the best methods for sprout growing, because I'm constantly trying to get all kinds of the latest tech for the best food, the easiest way, so forth. So there's always new things. There's new amendments. So I'm going to continue researching that. And when I get all my information together, I'm just going to put it on the Deep Roots website where I can put all of the stuff that I find. But I can't directly answer that question.
I think the sunflowers that you're speaking of, you would want to make sure that you had sunflowers that weren't for immediate eating, because a lot of times those have been, somehow cooked or treated, or say some of them are heated in a brine, so you have that salty flavor. You're going to want to make sure it's specifically a raw seed.
Now, is there a difference, like say when you start the seedling in the seedling soil, and now when you're transplanting it into the ground, should you use a different type of soil also with that?
Not necessarily, because when you have the seedling, and let's say it's grown, say 3 or 4 inches, when you pull the seedling plug out of whatever container you have, you're going to see those roots, and those roots are going to hold everything together, all of the dirt and everything. So you may want to add, some type of compost to where you're planting it outside, but you don't necessarily have to, remove any soil or anything like that. You can just kind of put it into the ground with compost. And I like to tell the story. I had a grandmother who came over from Lithuania, and she planted tomatoes with a fish head. That was her idea of compost or whatever. I think the whole idea in what you're asking is just to make sure that, okay, now the baby plant is coming from this place, let's make sure it has another shot of nutrition, because there is a little bit of stress involved when you transplant. It's funny when you transplant tomatoes specifically, you get them into the ground, you water them, and they flop over, and you can tell that the transplant process they didn't really like, and it usually takes them about a day or so before they perk back up. Plants in general don't like to be transplanted, but it doesn't kill them or anything. That shot of nutrition, regardless of where it comes from, is just a great idea.
So the seedling soil should only be for the seeds, not necessarily a plant that's already sprouted more?
No, it could be. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Because usually that seedling soil is just, it's a compost mix that drains well. And so that's good for anything. So, any other questions? Okay, that's really all that I had. If anyone else has questions, I'm here for a bit. So, thank you.